Hold on, it just started talking to me. 0.
We have people, so excited.
I know there are people.
Somehow I got a Yolo bus pet. Where'd that come from? Was that today?
I'm muted.
And you want to share? Yeah, can you share something?
Well, I see you're saying you have a number.
Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you meant, yeah. There. Thanks for coming.
Yep, it's there.
No, I really appreciate that you reached out.
Yeah.
Get the battery level.
You know that.
Get the battery level. Can you hear me? Is it good? Okay.
That's not even just done. 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, sorry to tell you that. If that's the sheriff's discretion, if you give you a little more time, you can do fine, but it doesn't.
So. It's gonna be, I mean, there's something about calling. Saturday, they're on Saturday.
Can you see my camera?
Yeah.
My face?
I cannot. Do you want me to? Because I know I have to select that.
No, I just wanted to make sure that all you're seeing is my slide.
I'm seeing your slideshow and you.
Okay.
And myself. On camera.
Okay.
Yes, like the issue.
So I want to. And then much. Can I talk about a little bit much? Right? But it's really up to them. Yeah. All of it, yeah.
I'll tell you, it's in 30 seconds.
Yeah, just give me the 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, guys.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I just use my phone. Hello, you're good.
You're a reporter. I mean, it's fun. No, you're sitting first. Autumn. Why not? You don't get to sit next to she was.
Do you want me to play? Yeah.
If you could put it right, we could do it. But that was, yeah, that was bad over there too. So I don't even care. Yep. That's great. Stop.
I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know, like, what are you talking? Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
There's a form up there to fill out.
I still hear.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go in the second.
Now they're in, like, yeah.
Right. Study.
I feel like
Now, today we got.
Oh, your fault.
Yeah, I don't like it here.
I don't know how you. There's.
The big box.
I get paid.
Oh, the papers are here. Oh, we never had it. Sure. Let's ask legal then.
So all the audience.
She runs to your own desk.
I'm just wishing.
For that mic. So, all right.
Feel like I'm standing in the way.
Where's everybody?
It's like. I'll tell you that. We're leaving Saturday service. It is that part of the financial. It's gonna be, take on 3 days.
You've been in the past.
The reason it's just that, oh, no problem. There's, we didn't, contracts for.
Yeah.
You read our past. Yeah.
It's gonna go down. Is our new.
John might have a better idea.
It's like, hey, we did Monday. It's like, yeah, board meetings.
Prepare.
Yeah, so I'm yeah. You know, I'm not taking your floor here. You give me breath.
Yes.
Right next. First home. Yeah.
I actually think that there's.
It's right before. Right. They decided. So, yeah, I see. Well, so they just found out that they're using $3 so they know, this was not. It's for 20,000. They want people to.
That is one.
Yes. Hideous colors.
So, well, she's not here. So we don't have to worry about it.
Oh. I know. Well, she's got, she was. Yeah.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, it's so nine. No, because I kept saying.
Yeah. I worked here.
Yes. Yes. Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Right down the street.
It hurts. I just want it hurts. That's exactly how I feel bad. Every time he says it. So I'm always like, that's what I have to say. That's why my knee hurts.
Yeah,
That's why exactly. The elbow really hurting.
It's all right, you know, you've got that.
That's what you find.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you. I wanted to introduce Karen, he's our new senior planner.
Yeah.
Right now.
We need it.
I started my.
Just sitting here, you know.
Okay, yeah.
I don't like that. I'm not gonna say anything mean about Trent.
So how the day.
You might have to. This week, we better. Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
Did you pick it up?
I know, there's stuff. I think she kind of. Over there.
I mean, if I.
Because it sounds like we need another person. Yeah. All right.
It's 7 o'clock.
I don't more. Oh, but this is over. Thank you.
That's Courtney. You know, that we're. Have you met him? It's not hard by myself.
Yes.
Can I give him?
You just. Okay. Don't make us be with you. That's why.
I didn't open them. I haven't seen them yet. Oh, yeah, they sent them so late, I was driving. I went by, I did not see them. Are there any of us?
No, but I.
By the way.
Actually, I can do that. But it's not.
I got something.
Yeah, you want to talk? No problem. I think it's like over here.
Yeah, you'll be. There's that. You said you were gonna be done. Yeah. Yeah. I know the shoes.
All right.
What a cool neck.
Yeah, I didn't think the West Sacramento side.
We need to get ourselves. You got it.
We have a bridge. We have 2 bridges.
Good evening, everyone. We've reached the hour of 7 o'clock. And this is the February meeting of the Yolo County Transportation District, which we've shortened to Yolo Transportation District. And as you see, we're all glad to be here. We are missing our Davis representative tonight, but otherwise the board is here. We're also missing our university representative, who's ex officio to our board. So we have a quorum, and let us now move to public comment. And that's our first item, and we'd like to remind you that we ask our people to keep their comments to 3 minutes, because if your item is not on the agenda, it's not something we can discuss. In any event, we'll take the input and we'll work with you and our staff afterwards. So do we have cards here for people who wish to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we do. And just to clarify, this public comment is just for items that are not on the agenda or the
Right.
consent calendar. We will have public comment for other items that are on the agenda after this. And the public comment cards are at the table in the back, and they can be handed to clerk of the board, Heather, right over here.
All right, so as our executive director has informed me, we will take comment relative to our microtransit fare issue as item 4 of the calendar. Does anybody out there wish to speak on any item that is not on our agenda tonight? Please come forward and state your name for the record, for anybody that doesn't know.
Is this a live microphone?
It
Thank you.
is.
I'm Alan Hirsch, I'm also known as the Lorax.
Yeah, make yourself comfortable.
Okay, very good, very good.
$52, 2 minutes and 50
I don't,
seconds.
I don't see a clock here, I'll keep it short. People complain that I'm a little too passionate. And I care too much, I raise my voice, I'm a little shrill, you know, I plead to that. I'm concerned, I'm concerned about, we're not really dealing with the issue here. This, we know with the widening of I-80, we are going to get more traffic on that causeway. We know that, whether they're carpools, whether they're tolls, that's more traffic and that's more VMT, and that's more greenhouse gases. And I know we should get upset about things. The science says that's what it is, and we've never had a discussion with this board, as far as I can see. Even though the UC Davis RC has presented, we never had a discussion about in public what that meant, what the implications. That implication is basically we're going to recongest I-80, and all the overflow traffic is going to re-happen again. And you may not be aware of it because I haven't seen the discussion that they're widening I-80 in Solano County, which is going to induce more traffic and more flow up in our direction. There's no discussion about that. You should relook at the I-80 comprehensive plan. And there's no discussion of transferring the corridor, no coordination of to Tahoe. And you have put out this document about I-80 corridor improvements. And this is what Don Sailors says about the project. Now, the project will improve mobility region in an environmentally sustainable way. How can a freeway be environmentally sustainable? I know what sustainable agriculture is. That's where you put things back in the soil. But I know what sustainable energy is. It's renewable. I know what sustainable forestry is, but what's a sustainable freeway? How can you write this? This is greenwashing to me. I don't understand. And there are articles in the paper about sea level rising already happening. Here's an article. Highway 37 was closed down during the king tides this year, twice. There was a notice from corridors, don't go to Tahoe, it's overused. But we're going to build more roads to Tahoe, get more people up there. Climate change is real. And I'm a little passionate about it, yeah, because I'm worried about my daughter. I know we're not going to be around. I don't be dead before all this thing happens, but I'm kind of concerned about it. It's a priority. And I know everyone wants to drive more, but we can't drive anymore. We need to do less, and we can't build the freeway. We know to induce demand. If you make the freeways go away, people stop driving. We shouldn't be widening our freeway. It's unethical. It is unethical. I'll share with you these articles about Highway 37 flooding and about Tahoe being overflowed, but we should not be widening the freeway. And we should be honest. We should not say this is a sustainable freeway, environmentally sustainable freeway widening. There is no such thing. It's a contradiction. You should take this off your website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. We appreciate your passion and the fact that you care enough to speak out at our meetings. Does anyone else wish to speak on an issue not otherwise on the agenda tonight? All right, apparently not. Does anyone time our speakers here?
I believe that Heather is got.
Heather, okay, thank you. I was kind of watching the sweep hand there. So I wanted to commit. I'm glad someone, thank you. All right, that allows us then to move to our items, our consent calendar, items 3A through 3D. And on the second page of the agenda, does any member of our panel wish to remove any item for independent consideration? I see no indication. Any member of the public have comments about our consent calendar? I see no indication. And
Happy to move the consent calendar as submitted.
On second.
thank you. Motion by Frerick, second by Lauren, to approve the consent calendar, items 3A through 3D. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So nice not to have a roll call after every vote like we do online. That allows us to move on to our regular calendar, which is items 4 through 7. And we're going to start with item 4, which is the status report on micro transit fare changes. And I understand we're going to have a staff report first. Eric Ray is going to live.
And Mr. Chair, just really quick, I wanted to welcome Ms. Ark, who's our filling in as our Caltrans representative. She's joining us online. Do you want to say hi, Manpreet?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Marysville.
Sorry. Not currently in Marysville. I'm in Roseville right now, but I'm from District 3, Marysville. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to hear that well. Sorry. Sorry, guys.
I did not hear. Could you repeat your comment? Caltrans.
I was having audio issues, so I wasn't able to hear that well. So sorry, I don't have any input right now.
All right, we just want you to know we're always happy to hear your thoughts if you care to share them. Thank you. All right,
I was just gonna add one thing.
please.
All right. I know because we're all over and in the, thinking about time, it would be, I think advantageous to, send to cities or city reps, front-loaded information, like gathering their priorities and, gathering, data from them so that that could be pulled together before we need to make the best use of our time.
That's good counsel. And I mentioned to my colleagues that we've actually scheduled time once a month with the city manager and myself to meet with Autumn. And whoever she might choose to bring with her in order to keep abreast of issues in the city as they relate to this transportation district. So if your cities would benefit from such interaction, I know Autumn would welcome it and be happy to accommodate it. All right, that concludes item 6 tonight. No member of the public wishes to comment on that one. Alan, do you want to have something to say? Yvette.
I just think, I don't see on the list. Because you're not a city, you don't do a cap. But transportation is the Achilles heel of even climate change here. And that should be an absolute priority if we think the cap is important, because like I said, the IA is going to set back Davis about 20% of its cap. So we need to think that has to be a priority. That has to be high value.
Would you define your acronym, please, for the record?
Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. How we're going to basically both address how we're going to people get on the bus or whatever, and with heat, which means trees and things like that. And 2, how are we going to basically help the community travel more without further detriment to our environment? It's a really messy problem, but I think that should be one of the key missions of the agency. You don't do a cap, so it's not in front of a center view, but it's really important. You need to coordinate the city. There's some siloing, the cities have to worry about it, but this agency doesn't. It needs to kind of has to infect you very deeply in your bones.
Thank you. We're open to collaborative behavior in all respects, including climate change. All right, this brings us to item 7, our last actual subject item tonight, and that's the Citizen Advisory Committee update of proposed changes. And Director Bernstein, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to start by just, I really appreciated Director Farrick's comment about level setting. And so one of the things we wanted to do with this item was just kind of, we have not had a board level conversation about the Citizens Advisory, at least since I took my role. And so I thought it was a good time to, remind us all what the Citizens Advisory Committee does, who's on it, what their charge is, and how they can be as effective and impactful as possible in being a resource for this board and for staff in our decision-making process. And they have some ideas, and actually over the course of the last year, they've been sharing thoughts about how they think they can be more effective and help make the agency more effective. And so I wanted to bring those recommendations to you tonight. So the Citizens Advisory Committee adopted its own framework, which you see on the slide in front of you. It's also in the packet. And it's kind of a Venn diagram with what the center says, meet people where they are and get them where they need to go. Which is, I think, a very nice, succinct way of summing it up, and kind of the kind of Venn diagram bubbles around that, around issues around sustainability and climate, ridership and performance improvement, transportation demand management with fixed route as the backbone. Anyway, there's a lot to it. You can tell they put a lot of thought and effort into it. If you go to the next slide, just a little bit of just about the composition of the CAC. So the members are appointed by the YoloTD board. There's 1 appointee per jurisdiction plus 2 at-large seats, and each member serves a 4-year term. And the current membership there is listed on the slide and also in your packet. Lisa Baker from Winters is our chair, and Steve Streeter from Davis is our vice chair currently. So we go to the next slide. There's kind of 2 issue areas I wanted to talk about. The first is CAC impact and communication. And I think the CAC in their conversations over the last year has felt that, we don't really interact with the board. We don't know how the board is, are we actually even providing input that the board is hearing? So based on some of those conversations, we've already made some changes in terms of structuring their meeting frequency, making sure they're meeting 2 weeks before you meet. So then having a long range calendar for them that coincides with your long range calendar, so we can bring items to them before we bring them to you. and incorporating their feedback into that. So we've already made a number of those changes, but sorry?
I said, that's cool.
Oh, yeah, it is. It just makes sense. And it was easy enough to do. And I think it's been helpful. But so they had some other recommendations as well on kind of impact and communication with the board. You know, things like having a joint meeting of the board and CAC once a year. Particularly if we're talking about something like a big issue like work plan or budget. They have talked about designating a spokesperson to attend board meetings and offer the CAC's input on items that they think are really important. And, you know, at your discretion, you could give them more time to talk, you know, like if staff give a report, then the CAC representative could give a report. Again, these are all just ideas for your consideration. They've talked about wanting to jointly do ride-alongs or rider forums with board members to hear firsthand from riders. You know, actually take the routes in your community that you both represent and, you know, and hear from riders and have staff come along.
We can go to the casino and pitch a buffet.
That's right, ride the casino up, you know, do some gambling and then ride it back down. As long as we don't take any seats, there's not always enough seats. So anyway, those are some of the ideas. Having regular one-on-one conversations with your Citizens Advisory Committee member, again, at your discretion to get their input on issues that are coming your way. So those are some of the ideas that they came up with, and we wanted to share those with you for your feedback and to hear what would be most helpful for you in terms of hearing from them.
The first thing I respectfully say is that these are public meetings. Anyone's welcome to come here and speak. And Valley Clean Energy members of our Citizens Advisory Committee will actually come and speak on items on our agenda from time to time when they feel motivated to do so. So every member of that committee should feel free to come anytime they want.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second issue is around representation. And so the CAC, as it currently is constituted, does not really represent the community that we serve. Our CAC is currently 100% white. It is kind of the overall age of the group is relatively older. It does not have, and most of the folks who ride it are not regular, or many of them are not regular transit riders. Some are. The CAC bylaws has a long list, and you have it in your staff report of targeted areas of interest. It's on page 32. Talks about, you know, the kind of various kind of representation or interests that we'd like to have represented on the CAC. And I would say, you know, we have some of those interests represented, but it's a very long list. And what I think we're really lacking, you know, is that demographic representation, as well as, you know, transit dependent, people who rely on transit for their primary mode of transportation. We really don't have a lot of those perspectives on our committee. So we have some recommendations around improving representation as well. And I wanted to just kind of quickly go through those. Wanted to create 2 additional at-large seats on the CAC and fill the vacant at-large seat and really prioritize representation from low-income communities and people of color to make sure we have better demographic representation. And that's something we can do fairly quickly. I'd like us to work with local community-based organizations to identify candidates for the CAC that can help achieve those goals while also helping to, you know, build leadership in those communities. It's an opportunity for leadership development. And then our third final recommendation is to offer meeting stipends to CAC members, consistent with the stipends that are available to the board to help offset any economic hardships that would be created for them by participating. And so those are the recommendations that we have, and would love to hear from the board members around your thoughts on those, as well as any other ideas that you may have for making the CAC both more representative and also more impactful, more helpful to you and your service on the board.
Thank you, Director Lauren.
There it is. Yeah, I've given this a little bit of thought, and I've been on an ad hoc in the past. It was with Don on another agency to kind of refine a list like this and to come up with what were the priorities to bring into the organization. And I would love to participate in an ad hoc, maybe with you, if you were interested in, if that's something that the board wanted to do, to just kind of refine this, because this is, we can't have all that, but we can have an intersectionality of that, and then we can have a priority of that. So that's one way to make a priority out of this really long list.
That's a very generous offer. You volunteered
I
colleague here
didn't
too.
mean to, She's right next to
Are you
me.
interested in helping too, Don?
I'm always interested in helping. I have a couple of thoughts myself, but
Please share.
that's okay. I don't know when the CAC's meetings are. Could you give me like a general like time of day?
Yeah, they're on Tuesday evenings at 5 p.m. correct, or no, 6 p.m. 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious about like just in regard to how that might do. And then I probably should know my stipend. I don't. What is the stipend?
The stipend is $100 per meeting.
That is great. Okay, well, that's, I mean, not for me.
Given the fact that you get an agenda, you have to
think it's
read,
great.
show up for a meeting, you have to.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing when I think about potentially offsetting when you're asking about you know, asking people from lower income areas to come in, potentially sacrificing an hourly wage. I think that's absolutely amazing. So yes, I would be willing to help. Not quite sure if you need it, but you could let us know if that list does need to be whittled down. Just the last thing I would note is we have no representation of any other race ethnicities, and I just think it's important to call that out. I would also just be curious around, because I see you want parents, you also have a certain, it looks like bands around potentially age range as well, I would imagine. And so it'd be helpful to know that information too.
Yeah, and I will just add, because I think I heard that as a question. I do think it would be valuable to narrow this list down. It's a very long list. And I think taking a fresh set of eyes to it, because this list was adopted, I want to say in October of 2020. And taking a fresh set of eyes about what really are the priorities around demographic representation, other kinds of interests would be very helpful.
And the ad hoc committee could meet by Zoom too.
Heck, yeah.
That would make it a lot easier. And
Okay, if we confirm that. Ad hoc committees can be.
Yeah, there's no-
They won't be able to continue.
No problem. Yeah.
but we may want to put that after the strategic meeting that we do, just because, again, just being a new member, it would be helpful to hear thoughts from my colleagues. So I can make sure as we're meeting, we also represent that and our community.
Director Lucas Ferris did have some comments with it. Because you can only hear him here, you know what I mean?
No. Oh,
Otherwise, it's a brown explanation.
I was talking about the strategic planning meeting.
Oh,
Like, so we can. I was suggesting that to whittle this down, potentially we could do that. We could have that session after we have our strategic planning, because again, I should have personally, I would love a level setting like that before whittling this down. So I can go into it informed.
oh, don't do anything desperate. Director Ferris.
A couple of items, I think. So firstly, I mean, in terms of so I think if a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee is needed, that's great. And I think so that sounds good. I mean, I think the whittling down of some of the items, sort of categories, so to speak, targeted areas of interest probably does make sense. There's a lot there. I think it's totally unacceptable that we have 100% white community, advisory committee. I think doesn't really represent the community. So I think that needs to be really worked on. I will say though, that it's always a who steps forward kind of situation. And there are ways to get at that, including offering stipends and having meetings. And I don't think there is, I'll just say it. I mean, there's no perfect time of day to have a meeting. Because the board of supervisors meets at 9 a.m. and that's also not conducive to at least half the population. And which is why we have literally 5 people or less attend every meeting in members of the public. So, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 5 p.m. are not necessarily all either great either. So it's a real challenge, I think. One thing we should be doing, I think as an agency, it's especially around this issue as well, but it is involved in a lot of other things we do in all our agencies as well. I think we should be doing is pushing for more flexibility of hybrid meetings. I mean, so that's just something as an agency we should be pushing for vis-a-vis the legislature. It's one thing for this body to have to meet in person, but like a citizens advisory committee should be able to meet online. It's ridiculous. I mean, for an agency that is a transit agency, for all of us that all had to drive from all these other places tonight just to come to this meeting when we could have just been doing it at home, it's a real travesty. Unfortunately, nothing, no disrespect to obviously this agency, but it's really unfortunate that the legislature and the governor have seen fit to take away the ability for public agencies to meet more flexibly. So anything we can do as this APA to try to make us have easier, more flexible meetings, regardless of whether it's the board or community advisory committee and such. Citizens advisory committee, I think it would be important for us to do that. In terms of the improving representation of the, the three sort of suggestions, I mean, I'm supportive of all three, right? I think a few additional at-large seats sound good, certainly, and focusing on sort of issues around demographics, but also including the, of course, working with, community-based organizations. That makes a lot of sense, of course. And then certainly the stipends issue. I mean, it's long past due. A lot of other agencies are doing it, of course, because it has been, it's it's totally, I mean, it's hard to, sort of to take time away from their families and time away from income earning opportunities to sort of participate in extracurricular activities, so to speak. So I think it's really important for us to be doing it. Thanks. And yeah, totally support if the two of you want to be a sort of an ad hoc committee to sort of take it on. That sounds great to me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, colleagues. I especially appreciate your willingness to kind of, let's have develop some recommendations at the subcommittee. That's great to work with staff, interact with staff.
I do have one quick question. I'm sorry. Is there any term limits currently on the citizens advisory? Because I'm not sure that there are explicitly.
That's a good question. Yeah, they do serve 4-year terms. Those terms can be renewed with a positive action of the board. We do have a number of board members who have served for more than 4 years. And so it is at the discretion of the board to.
There's no sort of maximum time in which someone can serve.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Correct.
I'll just say it here in a public meeting. I mean, I will be checking in on the county's representation on this body, and that the individual who I think has served quite admirably has served since 2010. So I will be, we're gonna have some follow-up discussions with the county about the possibility of somebody new serving on behalf of the county. Thank you.
Can I make just one more suggestion?
Sure.
Just with the time being, I think you said 5 o'clock, the only thing, 6. I think, yeah, that's the only thing I would suggest is, if possible, Tom, I have you in my head, fiscally responsible though. But if we could provide some sort of childcare option, partner either, with the Woodland City, if you guys have public childcare here or something like that to offset it, would be amazing. I know it would be a blocker for me when my child was younger.
And we do have 2 citizens advisory committee members that have young children and their kids participate on their laps.
Yes.
On Zoom. Right?
Love it.
Yeah.
On
But
Zoom
on
right now.
Zoom, because but they are gonna have to go back to in-person meetings, and I think that is gonna be a challenge for them.
It's very much a challenge. There's no way my even 9-year-old would sit here.
They have to be in person too.
Yeah, they're a standing committee of this body, so they're subject to.
State laws changes in a few days, more days.
Okay, the only thing, I like everything I'm hearing. I do think probably we ought to move more quickly on the Citizens Advisory Committee and then waiting for our strategic planning session. It's just a matter of timing. We can move more quickly. We know what the needs are immediately. Let's do that. And then we'll do our strategic planning session when we can schedule it for everybody. If that's all right with you.
If Dante feels like she's too new, maybe I could work with you or Lucas.
Oh, because I'd be coming in at cold. I mean, I have some personal thoughts and some thoughts based on my experience doing racial equity work at the
the
state and
word-
local level.
I would never apply the word cold to you.
Yeah.
You're hot.
I'm very warm spirited, I think is where you're going.
And it's
I'm gonna
good.
help you out here.
Thank you. I don't want to get into a situation where I don't want
You don't wanna get in hot water?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's keep her.
I would keep you
Yeah.
because your freshness and
I need
a new look
fresh
at it's good. All
Yeah,
right.
I have no problem. I have thoughts already on it.
And Mr. Chair, I would be happy if it's helpful to do some of that level setting, with Director Early, if that would be helpful to her and to help inform that conversation.
All right.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Well, before I get myself into more trouble, I think we probably exhaust our agenda for this evening. Any concluding comments?
We do have public comment.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have
we-
public comment on this issue.
And we also do need a motion on this item, if you do want to move forward with the information.
Or
Early
actually
so
to form the ad hoc.
All right,
Yeah.
yes, the one ad hoc.
So moved.
So seconded with ad hoc.
Okay, Dr. Hurley has made the motion. The second has come for Director Lauren, and now we have public comment before we vote on the motion. Now, tell me how this affects the climate change. Okay.
I'm sorry, that's boring. This is a wonderful document. This is tremendous progress. Thank you, Warren. Thank you. This is, I first started in transportation as a member of the Citizens Advisory Group of Caltrain. That's how I first was going on. So this is exactly where we need to go. Members of the Citizens Advisory Committee, there are kind of two functions. One is an ambassador. They're informed people and know the insiders. So if something happens out there, they can explain to everybody else why this happened and the limitations of staff. They can also, so that's they could really be an ambassador. So they can help speak for you. They can also take input, like quasi staff that can take input and collect stuff. They can be. And there's kind of a standing focus group. You can always, staff can always ask, hey, what do you think of this idea from different perspectives? Because they aren't politicians, they're just they're riders. So they so both kind of this input and also this ambassador. Now, and I thank you for putting the CSE page up. We need to work on that. Need to move the generic pictures to real pictures of the real people. We need an email address so people can write to the Citizens Advisory directly. Doesn't have to be filtered through staff. Because of the meeting on Tuesday, if people see the agenda right now and they send a public comment to the Citizens Advisory over the weekend, it sits in just going to sit in Heather's inbox for a long time. So we need to have it so it goes right directly to them right away. So that's some thoughts here. But there's one thing I want to address. There was discussion about what the role of the Citizens Advisory in terms of liaison for the staff. And there's lots of talk about diversity here in terms of the ethnicity. But the chair of the body said, we should speak in one voice. Now, diversity of ethnic groups is really important, but that's important because these people bring different perspectives. And if we submerge the diversity of viewpoints in expressing it to the board, I think we lose something. The real important diversity of viewpoints. And I didn't hear, I have some on the board that the CCAC don't think that their voices can all be heard in their diversity. So that's the only concern I have. But this is a wonderful document, and you should approve this thing. And I really commend you for using the Citizens Advisory as your eyes and ears in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Is there additional public comment? All right, as previously announced, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Oh, yes, Madam.
I'm sorry, I know it's exceedingly clear to those in the room about who would be on the ad hoc committee, but when I asked if for a motion, we didn't make that clear. So for the record,
The motion would include Dr. Dante Hurley and Jesse Lauren as our ad
thank
hoc
you.
committee
I
members.
appreciate it for the minutes.
No worries, folks. Thank you for keeping us on a straight and legal. All right, prepared to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, well, that was our last item of business. Any concluding comments, Director Bernstein?
Nothing for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our staff for all the work preparing for our meeting tonight. We know a lot of work goes into this. We appreciate it. We thank our partners, our purpose board, our partner Transdev, and thank the college, whoever offered that man $4 to pay his fare. That's an admirable employee.
I should have written down to find out.
For a good thing. Thank you. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That was great.
It was a meeting.
It's not a meeting. It's the meetings have been a long time.
You coming to me? Sup?
I just wanted to,
I'm